Welcome to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. And now your host, Tim Johnson.
The tourism industry is huge in Louisiana, and particularly in the city of New Orleans. The New Orleans Convention and Visitors Bureau has recently rebranded as New Orleans and Company. The president and CEO of that organization, Stephen Perry, joins us when we return on this edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Consumers and property owners with construction projects can have a successful result or regretful experiences that could have been avoided. Before any construction project, verify licensure of the contractor and check references. Scammers will claim to be insured or bonded, so always check first. Download our app, LA Contractor, from the Android or Apple Store. Visit our website, lacontractor.org, or contact the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors. We're here to help before things go wrong. Hire a licensed contractor. It's the law.
Spadel's Florist was founded over 30 years ago. From my mom's kitchen, we have grown into one of the largest florists in this area. There's a sense in our community that you stick together. Good times or bad. And oil and gas is part of that family. They're my neighbors. They're my customers. They're the person I'm sitting next to at church. If oil and gas is doing well, all of our businesses are doing well. We are Louisiana Oil and Gas.
The Work Ready You program changed my life. There's opportunities for everything. You could be a welder, you could be a nurse. You can take any trade you want, and it's free. I dreamed of it as a kid, be successful, making a life for myself and making me a family. I always dreamed of it, but I never thought that I would be here, and dreams come true.
For your free high school equivalency training, text diploma to 55,000 or give us a call.
Passion, experience, safety. These are what set Arkell Constructors apart as a premier general contractor. At Arkell Constructors, our goal is to exceed our clients' expectations, whether it's commercial, industrial, or facility maintenance. We have the team and processes in place to provide a solution for you. To us, every project is a resume for our future. Arkell Constructors, the solution for your next building project.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. My good friend Stephen Perry joins us. He's president and CEO of New Orleans and Company. It is the rebranding of the New Orleans Convention and Visitors Bureau. Welcome, buddy.
Thank you, Tim. Great to see you again.
We've been trying to get together on this show now for over a year, and we finally made it happen. So I'm really happy you're here because your role is critically important, not just to one of Louisiana's largest industries, tourism in Louisiana, but certainly critical in that city of New Orleans and that region, and we'll get into a lot of that. But one of the things that has always been interesting to me about you is your background, right? You and I worked together years ago on the staff of the Louisiana Senate. You spent a lot of time with Governor Mike Foster as his chief of staff. Talk a little bit about your background, Stephen, and let our viewers get to know you.
Well, I've got probably the most unusual background in the Louisiana business scene. My undergraduate degree is in Russian area studies, Russian history and language, French culture and language. I went to school in the Soviet Union twice. It was the Soviet Union then, which dates me a little bit. And I oddly enough, got my master's degree, became a teaching assistant in anthropology, and I was a licensed professional archaeologist and I did the cultural resources survey on the entire North-South Expressway from Lafayette to Shreveport, and a lot of work on I-55, and done work from actually Alaska to France to South America to you name it, and somehow ended up here.
And Governor Foster thought enough of you that when he was elected, to tap you as his chief of staff. And I know that your experience as a chief of staff to the governor of Louisiana, who is a very powerful governor overall, if you look at all of the states, you guys got some really good things done for the business community. Talk about TART reform, talk about the formation of the Louisiana Community and Technical College system as we know it today.
Well, we were very objectives oriented. Every year we would choose 4 major objectives and 6 or 7 minor objectives that we would bring to the governor and get him to sign off on, but the 4 big ones were always big. comprehensive civil law reform really mattered. The governor had led the efforts when he was in the Senate, and the reason he ran for office was to fix the entire workers' comp system, which had been completely broken. He looked at things from a businessman's perspective. And he also believed in getting really good people. You know, as you look at the people that we hired and put together from Rice, Harvard, Princeton, London School of Economics, it was one of the best and brightest. And Tim, what I'm so proud of, we ran significant surpluses every year. We paid down billions of state debt, but we made Louisiana's colleges and universities competitive because you have to have investment. And we gave faculty pay raises 7 out of 8 years. And as you remember well, we also made huge steps in K through 12 teacher pay, which was a commitment. This is, when you look at the things we tried to do, investing in higher education, investing in workforce. You know, that was the creation days of the Workforce Commission. Andy Copeland, one of my deputies, worked very hard on that with the team at what was called labor. Now obviously modernized.
Workforce Commission, right.
You know, but we did so, everything that we focused on was to have an impact in growing the economy. Because at the end of the day, do things matter in social justice? Of course they do. Do things matter in all of the social platform side? They do. But you can't get there unless you grow the economy, provide people jobs, create profitability, and create wages where you can make it all work together.
Well, what Governor Foster proved during his 2 terms, his 8 years, is that a businessman coming in from the outside can really transform government. My friend Eddie Risponi hoping to do the same thing in this governor's election as we go forward in 2019. Let's talk about the uniqueness of Louisiana, Stephen. You and I have always had great conversations around this. This place is like no other. And when you go out and sell it from a tourism standpoint, or you go out and sell it from a general economic development standpoint, there are things that occur here naturally that don't occur anywhere else in the United States, in fact, anywhere else in the world. And you guys try to take big advantage of that at New Orleans and Company.
Well, and we do. People don't realize that the cultural economy has only been fabricated a couple of times. That's Las Vegas. And we're talking about fabricated out of the desert, right? Orlando with Disney World, Anaheim with Disneyland. But for the most part, what people look for are authentic experiences. Well, the reality, Tim, is Louisiana's a little bit different. We often laugh that it's not like the regular United States. You know, I joke sometime in my speeches is we're lucky you don't need a visa to come here. You know, we
like it that way, don't we?
You know, but it's a very interesting mix because a lot of people forget that in the early 1960s, New Orleans was one of the queen cities of the South, over 600, in fact, not only over 600,000 in population, but the same size as Atlanta and Dallas. And what happened was, over that time, the development of international hub airports, in Atlanta, the evolution of the banking and financial networks and corporations coming in, the reconsolidation of oil and gas to Houston, adding another thing. In a lot of ways, New Orleans, it downsized, and yet the culture is like, you know, I tell people it's like that opening of Jurassic Park where you've got the mosquito caught in amber on the tree. It's a little bit like that. Now, the advantage of that is it's a genuinely authentic but very gritty place where culture actually bubbles up from the street. That diversity in New Orleans, the musical heritage, the culinary heritage, that's frankly a mixture of Africa, France, Spain, the Caribbean, it makes it a very cool place. And what we've ended up doing is harnessing it into an $8 billion business.
And that's what I want to specifically focus on in the next segment when we come back from this break. Let's talk about the structure of New Orleans and Company, what you focus on and how you do it, and the size and impact of this huge industry in our state. We're visiting with Stephen Perry. He's the president and CEO of New Orleans and Company. You're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Promoting workplace safety and family wellness. That's our motto at Gulf Coast Occupational Medicine. The Gulf Coast staff is made up of some of the most knowledgeable and hardest working medical professionals in Louisiana. We care about your safety and your bottom line. With 8 convenient locations in the greater Baton Rouge area, our services include injury management, physical exams, medical surveillance, and substance abuse testing. For more information, visit us on the web at gcombr.info and ride the wave to safety.
Since 1919, we've designed and constructed hundreds of industrial plants, roads, ships, dams, and executed some of the most complex jobs in the world. In fact, our quality and dependability are legendary. Today, the legend continues as Brown & Root delivers engineering, construction, maintenance, and industrial specialty services throughout the U.S. and the world from our headquarters here in Louisiana. We are Brown & Root.
The 1012 Industry Report is excited to announce the 1012 Industry Weekly. This e-newsletter is free and comes to your inbox every Tuesday. All you have to do is sign up at 1012industryreport.com. 1012 Industry Report is an award-winning magazine serving South Louisiana's petrochemical and oil and gas industries. From Lake Charles to Baton Rouge and New Orleans, we cover the news, people, projects, and issues that matter to industry. The 1012 Industry Report magazine and weekly email. Sign up today.
I just see the positive things on the horizon, and BRAC is a real integral part of that.
BRAC's taken a very forward role in trying to help align people and align strategies and align solutions.
You'll find that you'll have an opportunity at BRAC to make a difference.
It's about being a part of conversations and really having a voice in terms of how we move the city forward.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Stephen Perry of New Orleans & Company is our guest. We sort of focused on your background and the work you did with Governor Foster and what it takes to really drive an economy in our state and business and industry. Let's focus this segment, Stephen, on New Orleans & Company. The work that you do, the focus, the renaissance that's taken place in New Orleans after Katrina. Kind of get us up to speed on the rebranding, why you did it, what your mission is, and we'll go from there.
Well, the rebranding is something that I wanted to do right about the time Katrina hit. But when that hit, it took that off the table. The reason is, Tim, the term Convention and Visitors Bureau is a term of art from the 30s and the 40s and the 50s when our kind of organizations were two-people offices that printed brochures and were down at the end of a hall in a chamber or maybe at a mayor's office at City Hall. What we've evolved to now is we're the largest economic development corporation in the state of Louisiana. We're a 501c6 and we serve two roles. We're the primary marketing agent and sales agent for the state's two largest assets, the Superdome and the Convention Center. But we drive $8 billion in visitor spend every single year. And we do $1 billion on our international platform. Most people don't realize we have offices in Toronto, Washington, Chicago, London, Paris, Frankfurt, Sao Paulo, and Beijing and Shanghai. And we do $1 billion off of that. And of course, we're the gateway for Louisiana.
Well, and I want to build on that gateway to Louisiana a little bit later. But, you know, we've had Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser on the show. He's sort of the head of the tourism industry in our state in his elected position. But I think, and we had this discussion before we started taping today, that this industry, as large as it is, and with the significant impact that it has and has historically had, still gets taken for granted a little bit, doesn't it?
Well, because it's not well understood. It's an aggregation of so many components: hotels, restaurants, florist shops, retail. We don't make a widget. We don't crack hydrocarbons. We don't do things that the public understands quite as easily. But what we are is we're the second largest industry in Louisiana. In New Orleans alone, and why we branded to be more of a business kind of name. Tim, we're not only a 501c6 and a private corporation with an entirely private board. We only get less than 30% of our income from a hotel tax. The rest is our own self-generated. But most people don't realize that our little company of 85 people executes over $2 billion in actual sales contracts every year and drives this other $6 billion. Now, what does that do? It fuels 90,000 jobs. 90,000 jobs in St. Bernard, Orleans, Jefferson, primarily in those three, And we have hundreds of companies, and they're mostly small business. You know, most are not the subsidiaries of Fortune 500 companies like Hilton and Marriott and so forth. They are small businesses that aggregate to provide, and you know better than anybody, small business is where jobs are created and it's where wealth is created among regular people. And so for us, we have to, unlike a lot of places, December 31st, it goes back to zero. And we've got to get out and sell and market to bring in that AB.
Start over.
Tim, you know what people don't understand? Tourism doesn't just happen. It is a fiercely internationally competitive business.
Absolutely.
We fight and we swing so far above our weight. We're competing as one of the top 6 convention cities in America against the Chicagos, the Las Vegases, the Orlandos,
New York.
And it's something to be pretty proud of.
Well, and you think about it, and you mentioned this earlier, you not only have the 90th, but you keep the construction companies busy. There are so many spinoffs that are part of this overall economy that when taken in whole, is just huge.
Well, people don't realize that when you talk about an industry that's of our scope and magnitude, that means that 20% of every CPA firm's business comes from a hospitality company. Most of the bank depositors come there. Most of the bank's small business loans come from in our industry. So it isn't just a standalone business. It affects every part of the economy in New Orleans. And people don't realize now in the United States, tourism is more than $1 trillion business.
Huge.
With the meeting side of it alone, $250 billion a year. The meetings business and that $1 billion convention center that we built with the state, paid for by hospitality tax dollars in the state of Louisiana. Do you realize we bring in probably 250 of the Fortune 500 companies every year?
Well, when you think about things like Final Fours and Super Bowls and major sporting events, and then you watch the week-long coverage leading up to that, and every commentator on ESPN talks about this is the best city in the world to have a Super Bowl or to have a Final Four. The proximity of the resources, it's a great thing to sell.
Well, Tim, we're the stewards of the brand. And in our particular business, that authentic cultural brand is critical because what travelers are looking for today is something that's experiential. Well, New Orleans has got that coming out the kazoo, I can tell you, from the food, the music, the architecture. I say it's one of the most sensory cities in the world because when you walk out of your door there in a hotel, there's no question about where you are. You know, in a lot of other American cities, same restaurants, same hotels. We look
like
different.
Being in
we
Europe,
feel different.
right?
It is. It very much is. But what you can't overlook is the pure sheer economic power of it. Tim, we produce hundreds of millions of dollars a year for the state general fund. We pay for the entire, do you know that the entire construction of the convention center, $1 billion building, of the Superdome, $1 billion building, comes from the taxes that we generate on hotel guests. So the taxpayers of Louisiana don't have to pay a dollar.
Let's take a break. We come back. I want to talk about another challenge that you are facing with the tourism industry in New Orleans, and it's a conflict between you and the new mayor there. We'll get into it. We're visiting with Stephen Perry. He's the president and CEO of New Orleans & Company. You're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
What if I said that whatever good things you build you? And that in this economy, sweat never loses its value? What if I said that there isn't a challenge in the world too great for a craft professional with the right tools? And that the steps that lead from where you are to where you want to be can only be built by you? Build your future at byf.org. ExxonMobil Baton Rouge keeps the local economy rolling. Our new aviation project created hundreds of jobs, drove millions of dollars to local businesses, and poured thousands more into our community to improve schools. 1 in 8 jobs in our parish can be traced back to ExxonMobil. Tomorrow's Baton Rouge is built by what we do today. A little energy goes a long way. ExxonMobil Baton Rouge. Energy lives here.
Consumers and property owners with construction projects can have a successful result or regretful experiences that could have been avoided. Before any construction project, verify licensure of the contractor and check references. Scammers will claim to be insured or bonded, so always check first. Download our app, LA Contractor, from the Android or Apple Store. Visit our website, lacontractor.org, or contact the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors. We're here to help before things go wrong. Hire a licensed contractor. It's the law.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Stephen Perry, the president and CEO of New Orleans and Company, is our guest. So we've talked about how wonderful it is to market the city of New Orleans for the tourism industry and all of the wonderful things that occur there naturally. And there's no other place like it in the United States. And like any other organization, you've got to invest in it and you've got to have the resources to do the things that you want to do. You got a new mayor in New Orleans who is coming after some of your money, quite frankly. And Mayor LaToya Cantrell has said, we'd like to take some of the dollars that go to tourism, that go to New Orleans and Company, and we'd like to spend it on other things. And it's been difficult. Talk about it.
It is. It's our biggest existential threat right now. But we partly agree with her in the sense that what she is doing is something that no elected officials have done in the past, and that is New Orleans has a decaying infrastructure, massive sewage and water board problems. We've got pipes and lines that are over 100 years old that have cracked. We have boil water advisories. Look, Tim, it requires investment. And so she is right. She needs money. What we have to do whenever you have, this is true in Congress with our national business organizations when you have a new president, it's true at the state level, it's true at the city level. When you have new elected officials, you almost have to try to teach them, train them, educate them if they're not coming out of business. What they're not understanding is that tourism doesn't just happen. It requires massive investment. Most of the things that she's talking about, the original biggest two, the Superdome and the Convention Center, are not city assets, and the city has never put one single dollar into them. Those were built by the state of Louisiana, paid for by local hospitality hotel tax dollars, for the very purpose that not a single New Orleanian pays a penny for these giant drivers. Yet, Tim, here's the crazy thing. We produce 43% of the entire operating budget of the city of New Orleans from sales tax and property tax. Say that again. 43% of the entire operating budget, because in New Orleans, the largest landholders are the Archdiocese, Tulane, Loyola, LSU, the nonprofit companies like mine. Guess what they don't pay?
They don't pay
no property tax. So what we drive is a massive amount of sales tax. That's where cities get their money, right? Property tax, sales tax. So who pays the highest taxes? All of the hotels, all of the restaurants, the Poydras Street corridor. But on the sales tax side, we have a city of 375,000 people, and we bring in 18 million visitors. So guess where the sales tax comes from?
Sure.
And that's what we want to do is to help her. But what we're fighting like the Dickens over, it's we are not going to downsize the economy and downgrade the organic energy in the tourism economy, because it would actually hurt her and her efforts in the city and the employees that depend on our industry.
It is the classic cut your nose off to spite your face, right?
It is. It's the golden goose issue.
And you have come out with a plan that says we can generate about $80 million to help fund some of these things. That plan, I guess, is still being rejected, but talk a little bit about what your thoughts are on doing what you said you want to do? How do we help her meet her goal, because she's addressing it for the first time in a long, long time, without crippling the goose that laid the golden egg?
Well, here's the thing you can't do. You can't stop investing, the state and we can't stop investing in the Superdome. It's the Saints, it's the Pelicans, it's $1.5 billion of events every 5-year cycle, like Final Four and college football championship and Super Bowl. But when you start talking about taking marketing dollars, Tim, that's an easy thing for a politician to say. When Colorado took their money away from the State Office of Tourism 20 years ago, they went into a decline. It took them 20 years to bring their visitor levels back up. For us, we are a magnificent jet airplane. Sales and marketing dollars are the fuel. That plane doesn't fly if we're not out there selling and marketing every year.
Well, that's a good segue, and we'll watch that conflict, I'll call it, closely to see where it ends up. But this jet plane that you talk about is a great segue to this fabulous new airport in New Orleans. Talk about it.
You know, we have had it a couple of times, two of the most wonderful airports in America. The old airport out at the lakefront was considered, at one time it was the largest, considered, and it's still, when it's Art Deco, was one of the most beautiful ever. We outpaced that. The Armstrong Airport came in and served for a long time. But Tim, we have to be a global city in business. We are international in our scope, both in tourism and in business. You have to have a first-class airport. We've got $1 billion airport that's going to open in June, designed by an Argentine architect that is spectacular. This is going to change the brand, the feel of what you see when you enter New Orleans. And so we're really proud of it.
And it's going to be a driver, just like the massive airport in Atlanta was, and just like the massive airport in Dallas was. It will drive the whole economy.
Can't have a global economy without a global class airport.
We've got about 1.5 minutes left. What's the favorite part of your job? What do you like the best?
You know what I love the most? It's not people think because of the political background it would be all the political stuff. That's not the case. All that does is take away from us achieving performance. For me, it's walking into the boardroom of a major corporation or a boardroom of a major association and making a pitch and winning a $30 million deal like that. That, to me, is the ultimate high. Yeah. Tim, there's just nothing better than that.
15 seconds. Our football team got robbed. The Saints and that lack of a call puts us in the Super Bowl. Does that have an impact overall on the economy in Louisiana? I mean, 10 seconds.
You know, it doesn't have an impact directly on the economy, but I will tell you, just like here in Baton Rouge and around Louisiana, when the LSU Tigers are doing great, it lifts your spirits. In New Orleans, when those Saints are on a roll and Drew Brees is humming, let me tell you what, it just picks everybody up.
I love it, don't you?
It's just nothing better.
Stephen Perry, President and CEO of New Orleans and Company. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Great to see you.
That's a wrap, guys. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next week at this very same time for another edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.